the Anishinaabe, the Inuit, the Dene, the Dakota, the Inuit and Anishinaabe nations, and the Red River Métis Nation, who paved the way to what is now known as Manitoba, home to all treaty people. The reason we share this information with you is that it's a reminder of our treaty histories and the original homelands of all of those nations which have become home to all of us here today. I'd like to warmly welcome our honored guests and community leaders who have joined us today. I also want to sincerely thank the police officers and professionals standing with us. Your presence and partnership mean a great deal. Today's announcement turns our commitment to safety into meaningful action. It reflects the work we have been doing and the steps we are taking to ensure our communities feel protected, supported, and secure. To start us off today, please welcome Minister of Justice, Matt Weeb.
Thank you. Thanks, Soji. Thank you, MLA Brar. Thank you for hosting us here today and for the lovely land acknowledgement. I want to begin by echoing the words that you just said, and that is to start by thanking our men and women in uniform who protect us each and every day across this province and across the country. We've got some of those folks here today, and if you'd bear with me, I'm going to introduce all of them and go through their names as just by way of introduction. Of course, Mayor Gillingham is with us, Assistant Superintendent McMurchie of the RCMP, Chief Bowers of the Winnipeg Police Service, Chief Cologne of the Manitoba First Nations Police Service, Chief Bates of the Brandon Police Service, Chief DeFer of Altona Police Service, Chief Ione of the Morden Police Service, Chief Hunt of the Winkler Police Service. I know Jaron Peters is here, maybe somehow got out of standing up here with us at the front, over here. There we are. Oh, great. So Jaron, you are here. Perfect. Jaron is the Executive Director of the CBSA in the Prairie Region. Jeff Stalker, who I do know is not up front with us, but is an important part of the team, Executive Director of the MCIC, the Criminal Intelligence Center. And of course, Mr. Kevin Brosseau, who's Canada's fentanyl czar, who I will add has 20 years of service with the RCMP and importantly was Deputy Commissioner and was the top cop here in Manitoba. He brings a considerable expertise on tackling the drug crisis here in Manitoba. But I will just say, if you add up all the years of service, we're talking hundreds of years of police expertise standing before you, and that is really what we're bringing to bear to tackle the toxic drug crisis here in this province. Today, we are announcing that we're charting a new course to address drug enforcement here in Manitoba. For far too long, the meth crisis in Manitoba has fed addiction, has strained our medical system, and has created crime in our streets. Toxic drugs have devastated people. They've devastated individuals, and they've devastated whole communities across our province. Drug traffickers have exploited and robbed Manitobans of their lives, of their safety, and of their loved ones. And ultimately, there was far too many years of inaction here in this province. Manitobans have had enough, and today we're happy to announce the formation of our new Drug Enforcement Task Force. This task force is the first of its kind in Manitoba. Never before have we had this kind of task force that brings together Municipal Police, RCMP, Winnipeg Police, Border Services, the Manitoba Criminal Intelligence Center, alongside with the federal and provincial governments to address drug trafficking in a real and meaningful way. At our first meeting that we're convening later today, our members are coming together to share their priorities. They're coming together to offer resources and to share their resources in regards to their experiences in trying to combat the drug trafficking in their respective jurisdictions. Starting there, and with the advice and guidance of Kevin Brosseau, Canada's fentanyl czar, a province-wide enforcement strategy will be honed that will focus on resources and coordination and allow law enforcement to work together at a level that we just haven't seen before here in this province. With this task force in place, Manitoba now has a structure that brings the right people, the right expertise, and the right tools all to one table. By improving coordination, sharing intelligence, and acting together, we will disrupt the criminal networks that are responsible for fueling the drug and addiction crisis and violence in communities across our province. Today marks the start of a more focused and unified approach to drug enforcement in our province, and while there is much work ahead to do, this task force gives us a clear path forward, one that's rooted in collaboration, accountability, and a shared commitment to safer communities for all Manitobans. I want to thank once again everyone who has joined us here today, who has offered their expertise to this drug task force. I welcome and appreciate their input and their expertise. Together, I know we're going to make a difference in keeping our communities safe. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.
Thank you, Minister Wiebe, for your remarks and for your continued support in making Manitobans feel safe in their communities. Next, please join me welcoming Canada's fentanyl czar, Kevin Brosseau.
Kevin. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, and thank you, Minister. It is a privilege for me to be back in Manitoba on this lovely sunny day for the launch of this drug task force, as you just heard from the Minister. It is an important and timely step in strengthening the province's response to meth, to fentanyl, to cocaine, and the full range of illicit drugs that continue to undermine the safety and well-being of all Manitobans. I cannot overstate the significance of Manitoba's leadership in establishing this new task force as part of our ongoing collective efforts to protect Manitobans and, by extension, all Canadian communities. The realities we face today is that they're multi-commodity trafficking, complex organized crime groups, synthetic drugs that are cheaper, more potent, and more lethal, that require a response that is equally sophisticated, coordinated, and united. That's exactly what's being announced today. By strengthening coordination, improving information sharing, disrupting the criminal networks that profit from addiction and violence, this task force will enhance our shared ability to reduce the supply of dangerous drugs and increase community safety across the province. It reflects what's really simple, but it's a vital truth, that no simple agency on its own, no matter how capable, can meet these challenges alone. Success depends on partnerships that are real, operational, and durable. The complexity of the problem makes it a global issue, but we can tackle it together with national and local partnerships. Manitoba has shown time and time again that it's prepared to lean in, innovate, and lead. And today's announcement continues that tradition and aligns squarely with the national work underway to disrupt the synthetic drug supply chain, cut off criminal financing, strengthen border integrity, and improve the integration of public health and public safety. This task force will be an important contributor to that effort. Like the Minister, I simply want to as well acknowledge all these law enforcement professionals, the analysts, the prosecutors, the community leaders, and frontline responders whose experience and expertise will drive this task force forward. You're on the front lines of the fight against the harms and despair caused by organized crime and toxic drugs, and your insights are essential to shaping effective solutions. As Canada's Commissioner for the fight against fentanyl, I look forward to working closely with Manitoba and all our policing and public safety partners to ensure a strong, unified response, one that delivers safer outcomes for Manitobans and for all across this country. Thank you and congratulations all for taking this important step forward. Merci.
Thank you, Kevin, for your remarks. Now, please welcome the Mayor of Winnipeg, His Worship Scott Gillingham.
Good afternoon. Thank you, MLA Brar, for the introduction. I too want to acknowledge all of the partners who are here before us. They've been introduced by the Minister. I too want to express my appreciation on behalf of the people of Winnipeg to each one of them and their organizations for the work that they do. And certainly as we launch this partnership, this task force, Chief Bowers and the Winnipeg Police Service certainly have my full support and the support of Council to be full participants and partners in this important work. I also want to recognize Minister Wiebe and thank him for the introduction and for the opportunity to be here today. I want to acknowledge and say clearly I appreciate Minister Wiebe's partnership and leadership consistently when it comes to assisting the City of Winnipeg and partnering on improving public safety. So Minister Wiebe, thank you to you and your team for all the work that you do with the City of Winnipeg. And I want to recognize Mr. Kevin Brousseau for leading this lending his national expertise to this critical hour. Kevin, it's always good to have you back in Winnipeg. As you mentioned, I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you earlier today and have good discussion. Illicit drugs and organized crime are having devastating impacts on families and on neighborhoods in Winnipeg. We see it in the rise of methamphetamine and fentanyl use. We see it in property crime. We see it in public disorder. And we see it in the strain placed on first responders, frontline workers, and entire communities. I see it outside my office window every day, people struggling in the depths of addiction. These are complex and interconnected issues, and they require coordinated, thought-out solutions. And that's why the creation of this task force is so important. From a municipal perspective, collaboration is essential. In front of you today are members who represent public service agencies and police services across Manitoba, across jurisdictions. We know that drugs don't honor or respect borders. We know that the pain inflicted doesn't respect municipal boundaries. And so the partnership and the collaboration is critical. As Vice Chair of the Big City Mayors Caucus in Canada, I meet regularly with mayors from across this nation. And no matter the region, we're all facing the same challenges when it comes to illicit drugs, organized crime, and their impact on our communities. And so Winnipeg is not alone in this, and that's important to acknowledge, because it means that we need to collaborate. We can learn from one another, we can share best practices, we can partner in this issue. This new organized crime and drug trafficking task force strengthens the coordinated response. It brings together police services from across jurisdictions and other partner agencies as well, like the Canada Border Service Agency. It improves information sharing, it aligns enforcement strategies, and disrupts criminal networks that operate across municipal and provincial boundaries. And it connects Manitoba's efforts to national leadership and intelligence, and that's exactly what is needed. Because organized crime, as I said, does not respect borders, and our response, therefore, cannot operate within borders, but must move beyond silos. When cities, provinces, and the federal government work together, our residents are safer and our residents are healthier. And this work also complements what we're doing here at the City of Winnipeg. We're working hard to add increased visibility of public safety, strategic partnerships, coordination between police and outreach teams and community organizations, because public safety is not achieved by one police or one entity's action alone. It requires enforcement, prevention, social supports, and it requires alignment across all agencies and all departments and all levels of government. And you're seeing that here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for your support and for your remarks. Our next guest is from RCMP. Please join me welcoming Scott McMurchie to speak.
Good afternoon, everyone. Minister Wiebe, Mr. Brousseau, Mayor Gillingham, police colleagues, law enforcement partners. I'm pleased to be here today and support an initiative that will further our province's collective efforts to combat organized crime and take drugs off our streets. Everyone working in law enforcement in Manitoba works to reduce the influence of organized crime and to curb the production, distribution, and sale of drugs in our communities. Over the years, the RCMP has worked closely with other law enforcement agencies to achieve that shared goal. For instance, in the last 14 months alone, RCMP officers, along with some of our partners, have seized a large quantity of drugs. Just off the top here, 40 kilograms of cocaine, 9 kilograms of methamphetamine, in excess of 7,000 pills that we were actually having tested at Health Canada to determine what illicit substances are contained within those pills. Of course, we seized large quantities of hydromorphone pills and oxycodones. This is just a small sample of the seizures that the RCMP have made, and I know our police partners contribute in their own way and in their own areas to taking drugs off the streets. Seizures of drugs are in no small part due to the teamwork of law enforcement agencies, organizations, Crown attorneys, and the Manitoba government. But we do know that more work must be done. Organized crime and the criminal drug operations that they oversee continue to exist in our province. Establishing a task force to focus on these criminal networks will further support police efforts to arrest criminals and disrupt their operations. The task force will ensure that everyone leading law enforcement in Manitoba is at the same table at the same time. It will encourage even more communication, more information sharing, and more collaboration amongst our respective agencies, the Crown, Manitoba Justice, again with the shared goal of disrupting organized crime and illicit drug networks. While the focus of the task force will be on disrupting the flow of illegal drugs into Manitoba, we know this issue goes far beyond enforcement. As a province, and I think Minister Wiebe spoke of this, we must always look at ways to reduce the demand for drugs in our communities and help those who are struggling with addiction. I know that the Manitoba government is continuing ongoing work in this area, and I'm encouraged by their commitment to further address these issues. Again, I want to thank Minister Wiebe and the Manitoba government for sharing the RCMP's commitment to disrupting criminal operations in our province. And I look forward to working closely with the Minister, Mr. Brosseau, my police colleagues, and other law enforcement agencies on this task force. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott, for sharing your perspective. Next, I would like to invite the Winnipeg Police Service Chief, Gene Bowers, to speak. Gene Bowers.
Hello, everybody. Mr. Wiebe, Mr. Brosseau, colleagues. Today's announcement builds on strong collaboration and partnership shared among Manitoba's law enforcement community. Working together on joint enforcement initiatives and shared intelligence is not new. It is core to policing, and it is critical work that we do each and every day to ensure safety of our members and our communities we serve. When it comes to tackling illicit drugs and dismantling organized crime, we know all too well that criminal networks are not impeded by jurisdictional borders, and neither are we. The new Manitoba Organized Crime and Drug Trafficking Task Force will ensure our investigators are not hindered by international or transnational borders. The Winnipeg Police Service has a proud history of joining forces with our policing partners within the province and across the country to improve public safety, and we are committed to continuing these efforts at the task force table. There is no single solution to addressing the meth crisis in Winnipeg or the flow of fentanyl and other drugs in our communities, but coupled with addiction treatment, housing options, and social supports, the Drug Enforcement Task Force is one more concrete step that we can take to improve the tools and resources that we need to do our jobs and improve the lives of Manitobans. The WPS looks forward to further collaboration with our partners in Manitoba and continuing our important work with Canada's fentanyl czar. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank the Minister and our leaders for initiating and forming this task force that I believe is going to bring Manitoba, it's going to make Manitoba safer, and it's going to make Manitoba a place for drug dealers to avoid. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Bowers, for your leadership and your remarks. Lastly, please welcome Jason Collon from the Manitoba First Nations Police. Jason.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Manitoba First Nation Police Service, I want to speak about the crisis that continues to affect the communities that we serve. The influx of dangerous drugs is not only a criminal issue, but it's a public health concern that touches families, endangers children, and damages our communities. In the areas served by Manitoba First Nation Police Service, we see firsthand how opioids and meth fuel violence, drives property crimes, and puts an overwhelming pressure on healthcare and social services. Criminal networks operating outside of our communities exploit marginalized individuals struggling with addictions and profit from the pain and suffering of our people. The exploitation deepens the challenges faced by many of our people and threatens the overall safety and well-being of our communities. Ensuring public safety requires an inclusive strategy that engages First Nation communities and addresses the needs of urban, rural, and First Nation populations. Manitoba First Nation Police Service will collaborate with our police partners as well as our provincial and federal representatives through this advisory task force. The aim is to improve community safety across Manitoba by exchanging information and working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason, for sharing your perspective. That concludes our announcement today. Thank you, everyone, for attending. I will now open the floor to questions from the media.
Tell us a little bit more about who these organized crime groups are. When it comes to the individuals who are responsible for that trafficking levels, who are these groups that you folks are going to be targeting? Can you give us an idea as to who these individuals are?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to let some of our law enforcement partners talk a little bit more about some of the specifics that they're seeing. What we know is right now that organized crime is operating certainly at an international level and a national level. But when it comes to the province of Manitoba, they are bringing these drugs in and then they're distributing them not just through the city of Winnipeg and cities like Brandon and Selkirk and Thompson, but to many small communities. We've heard firsthand from communities the kind of impact that these drugs are having. And I think you heard some of that from some of our speakers here as well. We know that the effects of these toxic drugs are absolutely terrible. And by not addressing the issue in a holistic fashion, I think it leaves us at a disadvantage. We're one step behind the drug dealers and the gangs. So this is an opportunity for us to bring everyone to one table, to bring the expertise and and develop the opportunities together at one table, and to really go after those organized crime groups. So in short, to answer your question, we know that organized crime operates within the province of Manitoba, but we also know that there's national and international components as well, and that's why it's so important to bring together the group that you see before you here today.
Is this a new network or a developing network that's kind of gathering information that spurred the creation of this task force, or is this just to match with evolving problem? Was there an instance or a moment that triggered this task force in terms of a specific group and I guess network?
Yeah, what spurred this was our government's commitment to get tough on crime and to get tough on the causes of crime. And so, you'll hear Minister Smith come up every day and talk about the important work she's doing on harm reduction or on treatment for those who are drug addicted. You'll hear Minister Schmidt come up and talk about work we're doing to support kids in schools, or Minister Asaguera talking about our healthcare system and how we're improving that. What we're saying is on top of the work that we're doing on that side of the equation, right, we need to do that work on the enforcement side. We were clear when our government took power that we would be tough on crime, and this is the example of that. And we committed to this in our throne speech because we know Manitobans are saying, let's do the work on the demand side, but let's also not forget that on the supply side, we need to disrupt the flow of these drugs into our communities in every single way that we can, and that's the work that the task force is going to be doing.
Maybe one for the RCMP, but there's a line in the release that talks about focusing on local and distribution. Often, here from Western Area Police, it's all coming in, most of it at least is coming in from cartels. So are we seeing an uptick of meth production in Manitoba?
So to my knowledge, I haven't seen it myself, that there's any meth labs of any scale. I'd be remiss to think that there is not small production going on within Manitoba. I think that would be, that would be common sense to perceive that, I think this group here, with the leadership of the provincial government, have an opportunity to collaborate, put our further share the intelligence that we already share on the common goals, what's going on, what's trending in our communities, our respective policing jurisdictions, and work together to address that. And again, it is not only just meth, it is fentanyl, it is cocaine, it is prescription narcotics, and all the other things that come to bear. For myself, that'd be a little bit difficult for me to answer that question. Again, I'd be remiss to think that, a large supply of drug commodities do come through cartel networks and large international organized crime groups come into Manitoba. Specific to the RCMP jurisdiction, we have everything from street level individual dealers to small gangs to street gangs, and the groups where historically maybe would work in silos and they would all fight for different territory, and control their own territories. Now, crime groups work together. It's whoever has product, whoever has the money, they will work together because it's all about business, it's all about selling drugs, and it's all about impacting communities.
Seeing a lot of this, what's the majority of this coming from? Is it north south or south to north, or is it east to west?
I think it's a little bit of both. We see stuff coming from the south. Our partners, the CBSA, do interceptions every day across Canada at the border. They intercept, but of course they can't intercept everything. There's other ways, and the criminal organizations have nothing but time to think of new ways to get their drugs into the country. And then we see them when they do get into the country from outside the border, then they are moving east and west, north and south.
Maybe for you or the CBSA, what is the challenge? I mean, we have this whole task force, but what is the challenge specific to Manitoba that we're seeing right now with whatever drugs in places?
Well, specific what I do know from my work with Chief Bowers and the Winnipeg Police Service and our agency, and Mayor Gillingham spoke of it. Crystal meth and methamphetamine is taking over the city of Winnipeg. It's taking over the city of Brandon, and it is slowly creeping into rural Manitoba. It's areas where it is already there. I work very closely with First Nations leaders in northern Manitoba, Grand Chiefs and councils, and they are deathly afraid of the wave of drugs that are coming into their communities. So they ask us every day, what can you do? What more can be done to stem the flow of drugs into these vulnerable communities? Because that's what these organized crime groups are doing. They're taking advantage of vulnerable people, vulnerable communities. And we're seeing members of organized crime groups from out of province coming to Manitoba to impact and take advantage of Manitobans. No, I think my message is still the same. We're seeing, and it was mentioned by Mr. Brosseau, there's, the synthetic drugs are being made throughout the world. They're being made here in Canada, not specifically to Manitoba. They are cheaper than the traditional cocaine, heroin, and other things that come from other countries, right? Cocaine is not grown in Manitoba. Heroin comes from products grown outside of the country. But yet, still in Manitoba, we are seeing those type of traditional drugs here, but now we're also seeing a greater impact of the synthetic drugs, the fentanyls and the other opiates. I think the large organized crime networks, and maybe Mr. Brosseau might have a comment on that, the international groups, they all have partnerships with, groups within provinces, within Canada. So it'd be remiss for me to say that, a cartel doesn't maybe have a connection here in Manitoba to some organized crime group or some cell or some network, and the days are gone where you have the traditional organized crime. These groups, they get together simply for the trafficking of drugs, the profiting of that, and like I say, impacting our communities.
Is this like, for example, groups that are participating in this distribution network? Like, when we think of gangs in Winnipeg, there's a hierarchy. So is this...
Maybe I'll turn the Winnipeg question over to Chief Bowers. Thanks.
So I'm not going to, name different criminal organizations, but I guess what I can say is it's transnational, and then it does come into our borders. Does the cartel, are they within our borders? Yes. But when it gets down to the lower levels, it's street gangs. And street gangs, everything's very changing. Everything's very fluid with the street gangs within our city. One day they may be cooperating with one group, and next day they're not cooperating. It seems very fluid. So to say, what group or what's doing, it's very fluid. It's not stagnant.
And it sounds like this communication, where that communication is now instant between these folks, where if there is a group detected in Winnipeg, that will be broadcasted to the task force for
Well, we obviously have ways to determine or find out, who's dealing within the city. We have a good handle on it. We have experts in the field, and we obviously monitor, what's going on in that drug subculture.
Mr. Weed mentioned it in his remarks earlier, but it says that, we're one step behind. What keeps us one step behind?
Well, again, it's very fluid, and like we say, they're getting very sophisticated in how they operate. Again, I'm not going to get into all the details, but with technology, just like keeping up with technology, we have to keep up with technology so that we can, get in front of a lot of this stuff. So technology has a big part of it, how the operations go, how the different groups, like I had mentioned, are fluid and change, and I think that makes it difficult for us, to some degree. And by coming together here today, I think shows that we're very serious about what's going on in this city, in this province, and we're going to do what we can to ensure that we are ahead of the curve when it comes to trafficking of illegal narcotics.
Is that a general term, what is technology?
No, I'm not going to. Like I said, I'm not going to get into a lot of the details. High level. You'd asked, what keeps us kind of a little bit behind, and that's technology, different technologies, different, let's say, modes of communication, those types of things.
You had said that this task force would make Manitoba a place for drug users to go.
Correct.
What would your message be to individuals who are operating in this world right now in terms of those who are actually, trafficking drugs in our city?
Well, I guess my message is if you're going to do this type of behavior, you're going to end up in handcuffs.
You said this in your remarks that shared intelligence given you
Pardon me?
You said at the start of your remarks that shared intelligence isn't new.
Correct.
What makes, given that, what makes this necessary? Like, what's different?
Of course, we sit on different committees, we share intelligence. This is very specific to our law enforcement partners and our also, outside agencies to come together in a room and sit with experts from the federal government to come up with strategies maybe that we haven't thought of for in this province, or maybe weren't attainable without some support from other levels of government.
One of I was speaking with my father earlier today, who lost his son to a mental drug toxicity incident where he took ecstasy, he died as a result of drug toxicity poisoning in his very first year. And he had said that he would like to see legislation introduced to the Criminal Code of Canada that would essentially hold the people who introduced the fatal drugs into a scenario where people died to be held somewhat accountable.
Correct.
With criminal law.
Yeah.
Is that something that you feel would help police in terms of targeting some of these larger drug enforcement, drug providing agencies, if you were able to maybe hold the people who acquired those drugs a little bit more criminally responsible so they did back then?
Definitely, and that's 100% would make a difference. This is something I've talked about internally with my commanders, and also on a national level as well, to hold people accountable. If I have a business and every third item I sell kills somebody, I think there'd be repercussions, and I think that's the same for this. I've had family members die of overdoses, and gone are the days where a drug dealer, those accidental overdoses or accidents anymore. They know what they're selling is killing people. Every day we read about it and we hear about it as we're hearing about it today. And I do think that I would welcome legislation that would enable us to hold people to account for that type of behavior. Thank you. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, I've learned, so I think, look, after a year or so, recognizing that with a focused attention and intensity of effort across the ecosystem, supply, demand, globally, locally, we can actually start to make progress. And we've seen that. Canadian police organizations from across the country and participating in the integrated response to organized crime this past fall had incredible results in terms of 8,000 or so arrests of people that were profiting from death and despair. So the message you heard here from law enforcement officers, I think correctly, is that this is about consequences and holding people to account for plying a trade in this province. So that's certainly a big important piece to learn. The second is that it is through task forces and operations like this where barriers get exposed, where things that are getting in the way, just as Chief Bowers just described, a legislative fix that maybe is required, additional technologies that would perhaps help. It's through focused effort like this that we can start to uncover that and be able to give the tools to those we ask to protect our communities, the tools to be able to do so effectively. So those are the things that I've learned and taken away, and again, significant congratulations here to this province, to again, and Minister and others to demonstrate that leadership to keep our communities safe.
And as being the advisor to this task force, what does that involve for you? In attendance at meetings?
Yeah, like practically speaking, for sure. I hope I can add some value in bringing lessons that I'm seeing and learning from multiple jurisdictions that I'm involved in, listening more than talking about what's working and what's not, what is getting in the way of smooth intelligence sharing, what trends I'm seeing across the country or in fact globally. So the commanding officer of the RCMP talked about synthetic synthetics. Synthetics are different. One of the things that's different in this current climate is that the nature and the composition of drugs changes almost daily. With a new chemical composition, a new drug that manifests itself to be which often has an incredible level of lethality, which permits us then to be able to inform regulators at the federal level to say, here's a new precursor that we've identified, something that's showing up in one of our communities that's killing our kids, bring the regulations in effect, allow CBSA to stop it at the border, and take action. So it's those type of things, those type of learnings, that type of advice that I can provide this group so that ultimately they can have the effect that they want to be able to have in this province. Thanks.
Change the topic.
Barn burner.
Before you ask you the question.
And my apologies, sir. In Winnipeg right now, there's a lot of conversation happening around Winnipeg Transparency and Manitoba.
Yes.
The White House. As someone who is associated with Winnipeg, how do you feel about the fact that one of the athletes did represent Winnipeg and also an American citizen, attended the White House and died with Donald Trump as a result of the goal?
I'll confess it's the second time in my life I've cheered against Connor Hellebuck. In the gold medal game, he was outstanding. Look, Connor Hellebuck is an American citizen. He's a proud American. The president of his country wants to give him the Medal of Freedom for an outstanding performance in a gold medal game. So I congratulate Connor Hellebuck. Thank you.
We have questions on Zoom. Okay, let's take questions from Zoom.
Okay, thank you. We have two outlets on Zoom today, La Liberté and Brandon Sun. La Liberté, one question, one follow-up, please.
Yes. It was mentioned that there would be, through this drug task force, preventative and support measures for those dealing with addictions. Is it possible to expand a little bit on what that is going to look like?
Thanks for the question. So I want to be clear, that work is separate from the work of the task force specifically, but I think it speaks more broadly to our government's focus on getting tough on crime, but also on the causes of crime. We know that while we're up here talking about how to disrupt the supply of toxic drugs coming into our community, as long as there's a demand, they're going to find a way to get that product to the end user. And what our Minister of Addictions has really focused on is offering that recovery and addiction support beds and services that for so many years was lacking in this province. We're building up that capacity, and I might add we're looking at ways to support harm reduction and making sure that people just stay alive long enough to choose that right path and get onto the right path of treating their drug addictions. So while we do that work more broadly as a government, and that is a whole of government approach, what we're bringing to bear here is going after that supply, going after the organized crimes that's bringing it into our province, and disrupting as much as possible the flow of those drugs into our communities.
Okay, thank you.
And Brandon Sun, one question, one follow-up, please.
How often will this task force be meeting? Will it be on a regular basis, or will the task force be meeting when certain issues or incidents arise?
No, we want to be meeting on a regular basis, and I think our next meeting is already scheduled for March 20th. I've asked folks to come back together to convene once again, to take the initial first steps that we've taken here today and bring them back to dig into and to continue to work on. Look, my intention is to get all the good advice that I can possibly get, and that's what I'm getting from from this group. What I will learn and what information will be shared, at least at my level, is information that then translates into the work that the MCIC does, the work that we do in Manitoba Justice to support law enforcement across the province and the work nationally. And again, what I think will also be a benefit is that the folks that are a part of this task force will learn from one another and will share experience and expertise and share real-world experiences that will shape their own actions as well. So there's a lot of benefit to it, and I do hope that this will be a regular meeting as schedules permit.
Thank you.
That's everything from Zoom. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Great. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Stay put for the picture? Okay.